Hello, IEW Fun and Fascinating class. Welcome back to a brand new week. I'm proud of you guys for conquering Democles and the King. You're working on a brand new keyword outline that uses the story sequence chart to gather the ideas from your source text and not just take it sentence by sentence to do your keyword outline, but taking it paragraph by paragraph, thinking through characters and setting, and then plot and conflict, and then finally climax and resolution. So I hope that went well last week. If you remember that commercial that I sent y'all back in the very beginning before we began, it had that picture, little video of somebody climbing a mountain, and I talked about how exercise and exerting yourself is not always pleasant, but it is worth everything you have to go through to make it to the top. And so this is just a reminder in the beginning of today's class that pushing through and learning these things and tackling them and going after them and not being wimpy about it, but having a good attitude. Ask the Lord for strength before you sit down. Just stop and have a quiet moment and pray and say, Lord, I need your strength. Help me to focus. Help me to have wisdom and good ideas. And then go at it. I encourage you guys to have that kind of a mentality as you tackle these assignments. Having that mental toughness will help you as you go through doing your keyword outline and then writing your paragraphs according to your checklist. So with that, we are moving on. I'd like you to open up your workbook today to page 53. And we're going to do a quick review on what the basic elements of the story sequence chart is. And for that, you might as well just turn the page. Go to page 55, the next page, and the story sequence chart you can see on page 55 in these three boxes. So we're just going to read through them together real quick. At the top, you'll see the first box says, what is the setting? Do you see that up there? What is the setting? You're going to describe it. Who is the character? You might tell about them. Then moving on, the middle box says, what is the problem here? What do the characters do, say, think, and or feel? And what happens before the climax? What happens before the height of the fix to the problem coming? Last box says, what is the climax? And remember, a climax is the height of the story for how the resolution flows in. What happens to bring it all together? What happens as a result following that? And what did the character learn? So this is your fun and fascinating story sequence chart. You're going to want to keep these things in mind so that as we read through our source text, our reading that we're going to do today, you can pull those ideas back out. I want you to have a pencil or I'd say a pencil to start with in hand today, because as I'm reading this, I would love for y'all to circle or underline any key words or phrases that you think answer this. If you come across a where, I want you to circle it or underline it. Today, as you can notice, this video does not have a keyword outline on the screen for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it with you, and then I'm going to have you underline or highlight a couple of these together on the video together in your paragraphs, and then that can aid y'all when you go over to independently do your keyword outline today. So let's dive right in. On page 54, we're going to read together. So start at the top with me as we read The Little Dutch Boy. Holland is a land dotted with tulips and windmills. It is also an unusual land because it is lower than the ocean. Walls called dikes hold back the water. Long ago, in one of the Dutch villages, there lived a young boy named Hans. Every morning, he walked to school along the dike that kept his village safe. One morning, Hans saw a small hole in the dike. He knew the hole would grow quickly and the ocean would come through if he did not do something. So he put his finger in the hole and yelled for help. But no one heard him. He stood there for hours and hours. His finger was sore and numb. His whole body ached. He wanted to pull his finger out and run home, but knew if he did, the village would be flooded. So he stayed. Finally, he heard a man approaching. "Help, help," he said. When the man saw Hans, he ran for help. Many men came to repair the hole. In fact, the entire village came to see the boy who had saved their land. They cheered and cheered. He was a hero. All right, so let's go back in and think through our first, on page 54, that top box there. Let's think through the setting, how it's described, the character, how they're described. And in the very get-go here, you see the first sentence, it says Holland. So I want you to circle or underline Holland because that tells the where. And it tells about Holland. It says it's dotted with tulips. You can underline that if you like. Windmills, you can underline windmills. And I would say very important, underline lower than the ocean. Lower than the ocean. Now, another key element would be our character. And our character is Hans, so underline Hans. And might underline boy, because if we just wrote in our keyword outline, for example, Hans, if somebody else looked at your keyword outline or you look at it days later, you might not remember that Hans was a young boy. You might think he was a man named Hans. So we'll underline boy, Hans. What else about Hans? Anything else? I think the one other important thing here would be the dikes, because the dikes are a part of the setting and that's kind of what the story is about. So I would go back and I would underline walls, dikes hold back water. And I would let that be one of my lines because it's important to let your reader know the dikes were walls that held back water. And that's what I would underline in there. And then you're going to take those underlined elements and you're going to put them into your keyword outline on the right. Let's go to the next paragraph now. The middle one that says it begins with "One morning Hans saw." Now in this one, we're trying to think through what the problem is, what the characters do, say, think, or feel, and what happens before the climax. So as far as problem, we know it's morning time. We know Hans is, we know from before he's on his way to school, but what is important here is he spots a hole. So let's underline Hans saw, and you know for saw, you can do a symbol of eyes for Hans saw. You can even abbreviate Hans by writing a capital H, comma, eyes for Hans saw, and then small hole, and then underline dike. There's our problem. He has seen a small hole. Then what does he do? Well, we would go down where it says, so he put his finger in the hole. We'd underline finger in hole and underline yelled help. And that's what he did. He sees it. The problem is he sees this hole. What does he do? Finger, hole, yelled help. And it says, but no one heard him. Might say it's a problem that nobody heard him and he stood there for hours. So again, different people would key in on different things. There's no perfect way eventually, as you guys grow in your keyword outlines and you're doing them consistently on your own, you're going to pick in what you key in on. So, for example, you may key in on no one heard him, and that's what you underline. So I'm going to give you a choice here. You can either underline that, or you can underline stood for hours and hours. I would just pick one. They both communicate the same idea, but you pick which one you're going to underline, either about no one heard him or about he stood for hours and hours. And you'd say finger, sore, numb. Those would be 3 words on a line. And let's see. And then this last sentence here, it says, he wanted to pull his finger out and run home, but he knew if he did, the village would be flooded. So we need to shrink that down to our most key words that we can use symbols and just 3 words for. So let's say, well, I know we want to underline village flooded. The village would be flooded. And then go back and underline pull finger out. So in this sentence, you'll go and you'll underline pull finger out, village flooded. So those are our key things. That'll be your number 5 line in there probably. And then your final paragraph or section here, we want to key in on what is the climax, what happens as a result, and what did the character learn. So let's go underline our keywords of what's going to go over onto our keyword outline. Finally, he heard a man approaching. Help, help, he said. So I would underline man approaching, and I would underline one of the cries for help, and I would put that in quotes. And then the next part says, when the man saw Hans, he ran for help. I would underline man ran for help. And you could even draw a stick figure of a man, and then comma, ran, comma, for, comma, help. Next thing says, many men came to repair the hole. In fact, the entire village came to see the boy who had saved their land. Let's underline many, because it's many men, many people from the village. Many came. Underline repair. And you might have to break this into more than one sentence, but after repair, we would put see boy. Do you want to come say hi? This is my class I'm teaching. He didn't know I was teaching. Come say hi real quick. Say hi, I'm Paul. Okay, I have to teach right now, okay? Okay, underline see boy, saved. You can underline land, that might be too much though. So your underline many came, repair. I think you are going to have to break this into 2 lines. See boy, saved, land. So whether you can figure out symbols and abbreviations to put that all in one line, or you have to break it up, you can decide. And lastly, they cheered. I would underline they cheered, and I would underline hero. Hero. So that will get you started with your keyword outline. And today I know you're stretching your wings and being a little more independent in taking what we've underlined as the key words and putting it in on your own. But that's great. You're growing and you're stretching. There will be other lessons where I'll have it all laid out for you again. But this will give you a little practice. And feel free, ask your parents for help along the way. Absolutely. I'm going to pause or end this video here and allow you to work on your keyword outline. However, there will be another video available that goes over helping you with the next 2 pages on brainstorming quality adjectives, strong verbs, and learning about a who, which clause. So that's coming on next.